So this is a review for Knight-Mare Hare. And with me today, who's had a bit of a nightmare in rewatching this short, is my good friend SC McPeter. Say hi.
I just had a terrific nightmare that I was on an Anthony's Animation Talk video reviewing Nightmare Hare.
Unfortunately, it's real life.
Yeah.
Don't worry, it's not that bad. To a point. But as mentioned, this is a review for Knight-Mare Hare, released on the 1st of October 1955. It's the 751st in the series, and it's directed by Chuck Jones. You can find this restoration on the Looney Tunes Gone Collection Volume 4 DVD set, and I have a link below to that set, and hopefully one day it'll come through on Blu-ray in a high-definition upgrade. Despite thoughts on the short, I think they should all be on Blu-ray at the very least.
I definitely think so I can get even more distracted by the backgrounds in this
Indeed. But you can't find it on YouTube unless Warner Brothers themselves choose to upload it on their own channel. They might. It's safe. Who knows? In case you haven't seen it, an apple falls on Bugs' head, he's knocked into medieval times, and he meets the Black Knight. Oh, and then after he meets Merlin the Magician in another story altogether. So it's a weird one. We're going to definitely go through it and why this short doesn't exactly work as a short and why we think it is what it is. So it's an interesting one at the very least. But in terms of trivia, you'll notice the name Chuck Jones. Yeah, up until now, we've had his credits as Charles M. Jones, and now we see Chuck Jones, although you'll still see a few other shorts still saying Charles M. Jones. That's just due to the whole production order nature of things. Some shorts get finished earlier than others, but then released later. But this is the first time you see Chuck Jones in a director's credits. So there you are.
It must have been a concession of management to give Chuck and Freeling, I don't think Bob McKimson got it, to let them have their nicknames on screen. I think Bob McKimson would have wanted that too, especially since he had it a few times in the 30s, but I guess there was a formal policy in terms of crediting. But it seems odd that McKimson wouldn't get it. In 1959, in the middle of John Burton's brief running the studio before he was forced to resign, he made Jones and Freeling co-producers, which allowed them to give co-director credits to their layout men, but that came later. So they were getting more power at this time.
I guess everyone was calling him Chuck anyway, and he wanted that credit.
He hated being called Charles, from what I understand.
Yeah, so it's okay. He's now called Chuck, and that's how he'll be known on credits for just about the rest of his career. So if you were curious as to when it changed, it's right here. Yippee. The book that you see in the beginning, it says by Burton, and that book does not exist, by the way. It's completely made up for the short. I know, it's disappointing. I was going to look up that book, but anyway. But it says by Burton. That might be a parody of the production manager, John Burton. No one really knows, but that's a possibility.
It might be, probably.
But what we do know is that this is the first writing credit for Ted Pierce on a Chuck Jones short since the mid to kind of late-ish 1940s. So there was a period of time where Ted Pierce was Jones's main writer, and they did a lot of good stuff. They really did. I actually do like the Jones shorts of that period. But then Jones teams up with Maltese, and, well, they were like Lennon and McCartney, really, of the cartoon world.
Yeah. What happened was that during the shutdown, Maltese ended up becoming a freelance writer, primarily for the Walter Lantz studio. I guess Lantz wanted to really begin to push quality for a studio as low as he could. He had Tex Avery, albeit only briefly, but when the studio reopened Warner's, Lantz he didn't have a story department when he reopened. He just did freelance writers, but he actually gave Mike Maltese salary and higher than what Warner's paid him. So for about 8 months, Jones was negotiating a pay raise to get Maltese back at the studio. So for this period, Ted Pierce is his writer, as well as Jones himself. I believe that at least Rabbit Rampage and definitely others were written partially or completely by Jones, and I think Rabbit Rampage gave Maltese a credit simply because he wrote Duck 'em Up, where the idea came from.
But at this point in time, Ted Pierce, he had gone to work for UPA, even wrote When Magoo Flew, and I guess now he's sort of freelancing. He was still freelancing around this time, wasn't he?
I think later in the 50s, that's when that began, and I hate to say it, but we've discussed it before. Ted Pierce was known to be a bit of a drinker, and I suspect that his alcohol consumed him too much that he couldn't be a reliable writer and moved to freelance with writing partner Bill Danch, and he would do work for other studios at that point as well. Really kind of a sad way to go out for Ted Pierce, but that's what happened eventually, sadly. But he definitely became a freelancer during the 50s.
It's sad because Pierce has written some excellent cartoons. Like, he was talented. The problem was, when he was affected, the output just wasn't as strong.
Yeah, and I hate to say it, but this definitely does not feel like a cartoon he was sober while writing.
No, it doesn't feel like it at all. And Although, look, we could put the blame fully on Ted Pierce, but I think Jones also is a little bit to blame here because later on in the 70s, he made a TV special, Bugs Bunny and King Arthur's Court, which shares a lot of similarities, although Merlin is replaced by Yosemite Sam and Elmer Fudd is the knight that Bugs encounters in the very beginning, and it's very, very talky. And there's a lot of talk in this one as well. And Jones was known, like, one of his worst impulses sometimes is to make some of his shorts very talky.
You mean illustrated radio?
Oh, see, there we are. He definitely did that here. Thankfully, I do like a lot of the dialogue in this one. I actually thought of it's funny. It's just goes on for too long.
Endless.
Yeah, that's the only thing. So, oh well, it is what it is. And ironically, the one I'm more familiar with is that TV special as opposed to this one. I forgot about this one. I didn't realize it even existed. I mean, I had seen it before, but I must have completely forgotten about it, and sounds like you'll probably say, well, it probably should stay forgotten.
I think this one's more fascinating than good. I don't think it's terrible by any means, but this has never been a favorite of mine, and I wanted to talk about it just because I had a lot to say about why that is, and it's not even just the writing, it's also a little bit of the design, but we're ignoring the elephant in the room, which is going for this from start to finish.
Yes, we're going to get to it right now, starting with Bugs reading a book called Knights of the Round Table. You know, an apple hits him on the head and knocks him out. I do love how Bugs reads books in Chuck Jones shorts, the way he pronounces certain words and certain words incorrectly as well. Credit to Mel Blanc, he does very well here, and it is a trait in a lot of Jones shorts.
In mortal combat, and each vowed to undo the other. Just wash my ears and I can't do a thing with them. And so, they met, brandying their weapons, and the Black Knight struck Sir Lancelot such a resounding buffet on the helm that everything went black.
But I enjoy that. And we even hear a line, I've just washed my hair and I can't do a thing with it. And that comes from a book, A Weaver of Dreams, by Burton Reed, which is appropriate, I guess, because he's going to get into a dream state kind of thing.
Yeah, and that line is used in a few other cartoons. I can't do a thing with it, referencing Hare, of course. Another thing I'm noticing is, I didn't even think about this before, but this is, again, a cartoon about Chuck Jones's favorite writer, Mark Twain, which is probably why he indulged a lot in the writing of this one, I'd have to imagine.
Yeah, I definitely agree. He even started dressing up like Mark Twain towards his later years. So, you know, that's okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, you can have your favorites.
But look at this layout here of Bugs on the farm. Like, we're not even explaining. He's just on the couch getting his hair done. But look at all of these details. And someone like a Maurice Noble would have concentrated this a lot better. Ernie Nordley, who was a Disney man, he definitely was bringing his feature-level design that he had worked on in some of those features. I think he was on Sleeping Beauty. He's definitely used to doing a lot more with that, but I think it consumes the characters too much in some of the shots, and you'll see what I mean. So I just wanted to bring it up here because there's already quite a bit here, but it becomes a bit more when there's a bit more color involved.
And of course, it's kind of weird that we have the whole situation of him being a like hair salon, get it? Hair salon, haha, but doing his hair, like his ears, like it's having his hair done. But I did find it interesting, though, that in a lot of the short, he keeps that dome on his head like it's a hat. But definitely pay attention to it. It's like its own character, the way it's animated on Bugs' head throughout the short. I thought it was interesting. Anyway, gets knocked down on his head and ends up finding himself in times of King Arthur.
Yeah.
We see the knight. I do like the layout here, though, I'll admit. I like the fact that we see the Lantz, and we see that shot where we see how big this Black Knight is, which gets kind of inconsistent later on. But I do like that establishing shot. I thought it was pretty good.
Sure gets dark suddenly this time of year. Wonder where my hole is. Whoops. What the? Yape.
Yeah, and there's a lot more forest now, you'll notice, which, again, busy, but yeah, I do like the knight design in this one, and I do like using the mustache to cover up his lips, but it's almost limited animation in a few scenes because it's just the heads moving in some parts of the action in this. And again, illustrated radio, I think Chuck Jones was a little hypocritical with that line.
Yeah. I do like how they use a running gag here where the helmet keeps on shutting close on the knight's helmet. So, you know, it's like a little touch there, which I liked.
And whomsoever art thou in thy cast iron tuxedo?
I, knave, am Sir O of Kay, Earl of Watercress, Sir Osus of the Liver, Knight of the Garter, and Baron of Worcestershire. Sure.
He identifies himself as Sir O of K, Earl of Watercress, Sir Osis of the Liver. We never heard that one before. Knight of the Garter, and we see a Garter, which I thought was funny. That made me laugh. And Baron of Worcestershire, which is that line has been used in a few shorts, actually. I've seen it done in Three Stooges. Mo Howard would use that gag a lot. And he would try and pronounce it, but then he would say, I just can't say Worcestershire.
Oh, yeah, I wish I had some Worcestershire sauce. I can't say Worcestershire.
I don't know if that's where it originated from. If someone has a better idea, definitely let me know in the comment.
Yeah. Before we record, I mentioned, Anthony, that it reminded me of a Heinz commercial directed and animated by Art Babbitt that's about the Heinz Worcestershire sauce, which, of course, he mispronounces. He puckers his lips all throughout it. But, oh my goodness, he did not need to say so many names. This cartoon is literally just dialogue and puns for almost this whole section, because Bugs comes up and starts saying his dialogue, and he starts mentioning some friends that he might know.
Yeah.
My, he's a big one. Hey, look, pressure cooker. I bet you know a lot of my friends. Ooh. Like Duke of Ellington, Count of Basie, Earl of Hines, Cab of Callaway, Satchmo of Armstrong.
Upstarts and rogues. Never heard of them.
And here's the thing. Oh, by the way, I like how Bugs calls him pressure cooker. I thought that was funny. That gave me a bit of a chuckle. But the fact that Bugs says, oh, you're going to assault my friends. Now, you may not be aware if you're not a jazz fan, and if you're not, how dare you, but those names are referenced as Duke Ellington, Count Basie, Earl Hines, Cab Calloway, and the last one is Louis Armstrong, and he had the nickname of Satchmo. So they're all jazz greats. I thought it was fine for what it is.
I think it's fine, but I think the only one that's a really good pun is Duke of Ellington.
Yes, I agree. Oh, Count Basie, that could work too. Earl is a title too, so... But anyway, at least that one doesn't go on for too long. But we get a lot of dialogue here, and I do like the old-timey English, the play on words and such.
Look, Sir Rup of Figs, don't go around insulting my friends, or I shall get me a can opener and open me up like a can of solid packed tomatoes.
What? Wouldst tilt with me?
Tilt with thee I will, and I won't wilt. Just lend me a weapon, that's all, that's all.
My guess, and this is something that's completely lost to time, I think Ted Pierce wrote the short, but I think Chuck Jones then went in and he wrote all this dialogue.
It definitely seems like Chuck Jones either was left a very messy story and had to work a lot in it, or he loved the idea so much he contributed a lot to it. Especially since I think a lot of this was reused verbatim in the later special, including the later Merlin of Monroe pun.
Yes, which we'll definitely get to in a sec, but I think Jones probably loved this idea, and he himself may not have been happy with the result. That's why he wanted to revisit it for a television special when there was that mini revival of Looney Tunes starting in the 1970s. But that's my guess, anyway, which is fair enough. You know, you're not going to achieve perfection sometimes, and you want to revisit things, and that's okay.
I just want to note that these characters talk for almost 2 minutes before this battle begins.
It takes a while, that's for sure. But we finally do get some great animation, though, of Bugs trying to pick up the sword. That's a really good one, showing the weight of the sword, and then the knight begins to start charging.
Yeah, when he walks back, those trees, it struck me a little weirdly because they're flat, but he tries to make it look like it's flat on a space, which is a little strange to me.
But at least the animation is great of the knight charging, and we see that Bugs pretty much just gives up and he puts a cigarette in his mouth, which probably would have been cut on TV, I would imagine, for kids.
Ouch! Oh, ow, 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 ooh, ooh, ow!
I'd have to imagine so. I'm not sure offhand, but while I think it's nicely cut back and forth, I think that the timing is a little off when Bugs decides suddenly just to go give him the old trip.
I was going to mention that. I thought that it would have been more funnier if the leg came out like at the very last moment. You know that if Tex Avery did this, it would be much quicker, I think. But that whole bit of the knight being tripped over and going through that tower, saving on animation costs, I would imagine. In the meantime, Craig Brown would have had a field day doing all the sound effects.
It seems like Jones was giving Craig Brown an indulgence of sound effect time, but again, I also think him going down there also takes too long.
It takes way too long.
Putting that 8-ball in the side pocket is all very well, but it still don't explain what I'm doing in this booby hatchery.
It's just a cost-saving gag. This is something that First Feeling did a lot better. He knew how to do off-screen action as gags better.
Exactly. But that's it for the Black Knight. You know, if this was a better written short, you would have maybe the Black Knight appearing at the very end, maybe after seeing Merlin. You might have had the Black Knight making an appearance in some way.
And then we get more talking from Bugs and him observing a dragon that literally does... I don't even think this really does anything in the cartoon, really, other than just he goes into his hole.
Yeah, but that's really all it is. I do like the design of this dragon, and you can tell I'm trying to be very polite here, by the way. People are listening. I'm trying to be as polite as possible. I don't like being overly negative, but in this case, it is a bit tricky, but yeah. But I do like the animation here of Bugs. Like, he's got that very powerful water bottle spray there. That's pretty powerful, I have to say. That's intense strength. But the animation of the dragon whimpering and going away, at least that's a positive, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just looking again at these backgrounds, and again, I feel like some of the details are misplaced, and this shot of Bugs shooting the water, that is, again, another very busy shot. You have the textures of the ash-strained dirt, then the grass, and then you have what looks like almost sand or just other dirt, and then you have the castle walls. And it's weird that Bugs doesn't actually try to go into the kingdom, and he just wanders into the forest during the night. And it looks like they were trying to do a day and night cycle because now it's also sunset when you can see the sky, but it doesn't read as well as it would in, say, like, Peck Up Your Troubles now or A Tale of Two Kitties where they tried the same thing.
Yeah, this definitely needed more refinement because this whole dragon bit, I don't know, it feels like it was something from another short, really.
It literally has no purpose in the story, and then you just cut to Bugs in a completely different atmosphere. Just at Merlin of Monroe.
Which, for those who aren't aware, because the younger folks may not be aware, that's a reference to Marilyn Monroe, who was one of the great beauties of the 1950s, who acted in a lot of great films, who had, of course, a very tragic end as well.
I will say, though, this is probably my favorite design of the whole thing, this whole outside shot of Merlin's house. Very nicely concentrated grays, but not the best pun ever.
No, it's okay for what it is. So we got the fact that Bugs, again, is wandering around, he's just there, like this, and again, there's no urgency, there's no thing like, oh, how am I going to get back to my time? I don't belong here. There doesn't seem to be any urgency right here. He just wanders in this building. Oh, hey, Merlin.
All talk, no action in this one, sadly. I like Merlin's design, though.
And I get a Peter Lorre type vibe when it comes to the voice acting here as well.
My name is Merlin. I'm a sorcerer. Yeah? Really? A sorcerer? Hey, come on, let's see your sauce, please, please? Why, of course, anything to oblige a guest.
I don't know if that was intended or not, but I definitely got that vibe. But we got the fact that Bugs says, like, wow, it's a real-life warlock. I mean, Merlin was a wizard, but we won't worry about that, of course. But I do like this idea here where Merlin turns Bugs into a pig to show him a magic trick.
We're also seeing one thing that Jones would continue for the rest of his career, which was using these word effects like silent films. He did that for the rest of his career, and I don't know what prompted that other than maybe childhood fondness of those films, but I like that part of his aesthetic using that.
Yeah.
But I do like Merlin as sort of playing childish magic tricks on his guest.
You can see the whole words poof showing as well when the magic is done, so... at least there's some thought to it when it comes to the little things. I just wish the big details were done a little bit better.
I wish this background, it looks like they're trying to go for some depth with the whole floor, but it would have been a little bit more distracting if I wasn't keeping my eyes there, which I know I shouldn't have, but I do like this little callback where he's constantly taking off the donkey once Bugs changes him.
Yes. And I do like that Bugs manages to get Merlin turned into a horse.
This feels like a weirdly contrived ending as we get to it, where we have to just, like, when I listened to Bugs talk about the pencil, I was like, what? It just seemed like an odd way to bookmark the short with the apple.
And also, even before that, when just lights up his thumb on fire, was kind of a weird thing. Merlin can't do it.
I think it's an old vaudeville joke, which kind of makes sense because these are childish games that they're playing.
Yeah.
I've definitely seen it in at least one other cartoon.
Yeah.
Hey, Merle.
But I do like the gag where, okay, Merlin's changed into a horse, but he keeps on trying to unzip out of it. I thought that was funny. That gave me a bit of a chuckle.
It's probably the funniest joke in this whole cartoon because it's actually executed well
Yeah,
enough.
and I actually noted down here that it's my favorite gag in the whole short. So how about that, right?
Yeah. It might be the only part of the short that made me laugh. At least it's a good laugh.
But then Bugs reminds us, oh yeah, there is an overarching story. I got to try and get back to my time. And he sees a fruit bowl and just goes, why not? After all, they laughed at the man when he discovered penicillin, and he's referring to a Scottish man named Alexander Fleming who made an extract from a fungus known as penicillin, and that later was the basis of the penicillin that we use today for antibiotics. So see, cartoons are educational, kids. So there you are.
Yeah, but I think the better line could have been saying like, if they laughed at the man who discovered the law of gravity in the books, it would have matched with him using the apple.
Yeah, exactly.
But again, it was just like, for me, like saying, what?
Or you could say, after all, they laughed at Isaac Newton or something, because the whole apple, but...
Nearer to me natural habitat. Whoops. Well, why not? After all, they laughed at the man when he discovered penicillin.
And then we get to this, again, the cartoon just feels like it ends. This isn't something that would have happened in a Mike Maltese story. You can really tell that Mike Maltese was missed during this period where Jones wasn't quite getting the stories or the structure that he got from Maltese that he was used to.
Yeah.
And that kept his better habits in check.
Yeah, so we got a whole thing where, it's just a dream, and we got the horse, and it's named Merlin, just like in the Nightmare, and Bugs is stunned.
Bugs makes a face, and it's like, what? It just ends.
Yeah, it just ends right there, and that's pretty much it.
And as I told Anthony yesterday when I watched this for the commentary, after all of these years, knowing that I was going to try to do this one, it is the only time I have watched this short without dozing off or falling asleep. I cannot stay through this short without actively keeping myself engaged. And I'll be honest, the only reason I did that was because I was doing some other things. I still yawned when I was watching it. I don't hate this short, and I do like Bugs himself. He's still in his character in this, but oh my god, it's just endless talking. It reminded me of some of Jones's earlier cartoons where he didn't know how to use the dialogue. And again, for a guy who used the term illustrated radio, it literally is that for half of this cartoon.
Yeah, it definitely is Chuck Jones on an off day, at least at this period of time, and it's too much of his own indulgences, and I guess Ted Pierce's ideas just wasn't done very well here. So yeah, and I hate to say it, this is mostly a dud. Few nice things here. I do like the old-timey English, some of the puns are funny, and the animation is great in a lot of the shots, but it's got a very busy background, and also it's very talky. Way too talky, and the timing is definitely off in a lot of the shots.
There's almost nothing in this cartoon. I'm just surprised we could talk about it this long, but it feels like half of that we just kept retreading what made this cartoon not work.
Yeah, so it gets 5 out of 10.
Which is kind of sad. This is, I'll give it a 6.5 just because it's nicely produced, and they're not always going to be winners, but this feels like the first cartoon of this type in a while, except for My Little Duckaroo, maybe. But even then, I think, again, that short is still miles better than this one, even if, again, we're seeing some slips crack, but at the very least, when Maltese and Maurice Noble come back, that gets fixed for at least another 2 years.
Exactly. So yeah, 5 out of 10, I'd struggled with this one. And I'm actually someone that doesn't mind the really talky Chuck Jones stuff. This one just doesn't really work. So there is that. So yeah. Sorry guys, if you guys enjoyed this one more than me, definitely let me know why in the comments, because I'm definitely curious, because some of you might have grown up with this and really love it. Hey, more power to you, but definitely let me know in the comments. But that, I think, will do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and until next time, take care.
That's all, folks.
Nightmare? Nah, impossible. Couldn't be him.
All right, Merlin. Giddy up. Get along now.